I think it's time we update the history of Prythian now that we've got the Crescent City books to add to the lore. The history of Prythian was left pretty vague, right? Turns out there's a whole reason for it that's explained in Crescent City. And I know doing the extra reading is a lot to ask for most of the audience. My husband is in that same boat. So we're actually working on a project where I explain the lore of Crescent City to him in a way that allows him to stand in as you guys and ask all your questions. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so let's start with why the history is so vague. That is the direct result of a woman named Silene, and we're going to get into her whole story, but basically she did a spell to wipe the memory of Prythian of everything that I'm about to go over. So that's why we have so many, the knowledge got lost. The story's been lost. The artifact's been lost. Everything's been lost. That's what this video is about, is why it was all lost. And this is all based on the Crescent City books and what we've been giving and the facts. This is not me theorizing. This is not me speculating. And if I get things wrong, please let me know in the comments for those of you who have read the books. 15,000 years ago in Prythian, the Northern Rift opened. We don't fully know what that means, but basically, based on what we've gathered from all the books, this is a tear in the universe, which acts as a portal, allowing other entities to come through, and then it closed, and some entities got stuck. We don't know how the rift opened. We don't know why it opened. We don't know who opened it. We don't know if there's a who that opened it. I'm sure we're going to get that in a much, much future series from Sarah Maas. So what we do know is that there's a race of people that are the entities of stars. Like Polaris, the North Star, is one of these creatures. Sirius, that star, is one of these creatures. So basically, the stars of their universe are actual sentient entities. In Prythian, they're known as Daglan. According to Crescent City, their true name is Asteri. Now, we don't know the exact timeline here, but the Asteri come from a world that they destroyed. I think they went through all of the resources, but there may have been an apocalyptic war. I'm not entirely sure on those details. But as all sentient creatures are wont to do, they chose to survive and expand onto other planets. One of those planets is the world that houses Prythian, but I don't actually know the world's name. If y'all know it, please tell me in the comments. It's important to note here that these entities do not have magic inherently. They are just whatever stars are, like gas and light and all the things. But they consume magic. So they are parasites wherever they go. When they got to Prythian, they set up a feudal system where the Asteri, known as the Daglan here, are at the very top, and then the High Fae are given their territories, and then they are given the humans as slaves. We know from Crescent City that this is a distraction tactic, that if they are squabbling over their own hierarchies, they're really not thinking about the hierarchy that everybody's subjected to. And then once a year, these High Fae had to make the tithe to the Daglan. They would give one little droplet of power, and in exchange, the Asteri would protect them from outside forces and all the other things the governments say they do. The added bonus was that by giving up the tithe every year, it's also keeping the Fae from being able to gather their strength and resist them. It keeps them weaker. While here, they made the Cauldron, they made the Dread Trove, and other such artifacts. The Cauldron specifically was created as a kill switch, so that if something should go wrong, they can just break the Cauldron and the world will be destroyed. I don't know why they didn't do that, but the Fae of Prythian did rise up and resist. The Daglan were forced out of Prythian, and they retreated to a place they had found called Midgard. That's the home world for the Crescent City series. And the High Fae broke off the legs of the Cauldron and hid them, hid the Trove as best they could, broke apart the Book of Breathings and split it amongst the mortals and the Fae, and did everything they could to make sure the Daglan aren't able to come back and reclaim that world. In this time, we're going to go back to calling them Asteri because, again, that is their true name according to Crescent City. Once in Midgard, they install a new tactic. They put a parasite in the world's water source. This parasite will eat at their magic until they do something called the drop. In this ritual, someone with magical capability will go into basically a very deep meditation and allow their physical bodies to die. While internally, they have to make the ascent and get back to their bodies with their souls, and they reclaim all of their magic at that point, and their long-livedness. If they choose not to make the drop, they will wither and die just like any human. When someone makes the drop, it is a very concentrated form of magic that they generate upon that first time connecting the whole system together. The Asteri trap that magic, and they store it in something kind of like a battery, and it's the core that powers the city. That is the kill switch for Midgard. There isn't a tithe in Midgard, but there are different things they can do where they can give a drop of their magic to like make a wish or communicate in a special way that honestly is just going to convolute this video. But the elements are still there, they're just trying new techniques on Midgard. Meanwhile, back in Prythian, one Asteri / Daglan still exists and rules over the Dusk Court. At this point, the High Lords of Prythian have split into 8 courts, I guess 9 because Hybern. I don't really know where Hybern fits into this, but the Dusk Court is very much alive and active. The ruler is an Asteri, a Daglan, called Vesperus. One of her servants is a human woman named Theia. Well, Theia found an opportunity to trap Vesperus under her own castle. Theia and this man named Fionn team up, trap Vesperus, and Fionn installs himself as High King. I'm not sure about the sequence of events here. It's a little confusing. But basically, Fionn used the Cauldron to make Gwydion and its twin dagger, Truth Teller. At some point, Fionn and his forces are able to drive back the Asteri. Honestly, this is probably before the Asteri fled to Midgard, but again, I'm not 100% on this. Please feel free to correct that in the comments. Anyway, so the Asteri are in Midgard, Theia and Fionn are in charge of Prythian, and Theia gets greedy for power. Theia teams up with Fionn's general, Pelias, and they kill Fionn. From there, they're ruling, they're authoritarian. It's honestly a nightmare for everybody except for Theia and Pelias. Theia has 2 daughters, Helena and Silene, and she decides she wants a world for each of them to inherit. She remembers that the Asteri / Daglan are able to go between worlds, and she decides she's going to expand to more worlds. Pelias decides that they should go to Midgard, which, granted, this whole thing was set up by the Asteri to lure them into Midgard to be part of that whole thing. So Theia uses the horn, which is part of the Dread Trove. It's that 4th part that was rumored about, but nobody knew for sure. She uses that and the harp to jump worlds to Midgard with Pelias and their daughters and so on and so forth. Eventually, Theia realizes that this is a trap and these creatures that they've gotten to know and love are actually the Daglan in disguise. So she remembers that there's a different world called Hell with 1 L, and they were able to successfully resist the Asteri. One of the princes of Hell literally ate one of the Asteri. His name was Apollion. He became the Star-Eater. The one he ate was, I think, Sirius. And now they just have an empty throne in Crescent City to honor Sirius. It's interesting. So Hell teams up with Midgard, and during the Uprising, Theia decides to send her daughters back to Prythian for their own safety. She uses the harp to split her magic into 3 equal parts. 1 for herself, 1 for Helena, and 1 for Silene. She gives the harp to the girls and basically pushes them towards a safer place to open the portal. Without going through all the spoilers, Silene makes it back to Prythian with the harp, but not the horn. Gwydion is still with Pelias on Midgard. The horn is still on Midgard. But somehow, Truth Teller's in Prythian. I don't really know how that happened either. Silene, when she returns to Prythian, goes under the palace and she puts basically cave art everywhere to show the story of what happened. And then she uses basically something like Reese's magic to wipe away the memory of the Dusk Court from common memory. She then lures all of these creatures, just the darkest things she can find, and she locks them into the various rooms of the palace of the Dusk Court. This corrupts the energy and the land, and the Dusk Court turns into a prison. The prison that we've all come to know and fear. Silene is a distant ancestor of Rhys, and that's about all we know. And now, because of Crescent City, we have an inhabitant of Midgard named Bryce, who has come into Prythian and discovered all of that art, and a hologram of Silene explaining the story. Nesta and Azrael were also there and able to see it. And that's where we sit as we approach ACOTAR Book 6. That's the updated history as far as we know, and it's very confusing. But it's going to become important with the next book, I think. So let me know what I got wrong in the comments. Make sure to correct me because this is important, and it would be helpful to have the most accurate information possible. Also, let me know anything you want me to clarify further, because I am happy to make all of the explainer content for you.